think we were scheduled for 6:30, so you can start.
Hey Todd, let Charlie go.
Sorry.
If you bang the hammer, I'll come running, and you find somebody to talk to there, Todd.
Good evening, and welcome to the Keystone Heights City Council special meeting, June 23rd, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Mr. Denton, can you call the roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Cussler. Here. Mayor Rudenroff.
Here.
Councilman Linda Dusky.
Here.
Councilman Knight.
Here.
And let the record show Mr. Walsh is not going to be with us this evening.
Thank you. Do you have any public comments?
We have two, Madam Mayor. I'd like to ask General Eifert, who is the chairman of our airport authority, to come forward and just bring in up to speed, not on everything with the airport, just on a couple of things that are kind of critical at the moment.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, sir. Appreciate it.
Welcome. My full name is James Eifert. I live at 2208 Southeast 30th Street in Melrose. I'm just reading right from this. And I'm actually in Bradford County, not Atlanta. So I thought I would start out by kind of summarizing the parts of our 10 June meeting that I think you probably care about. And that is with respect to the issues with the firm on our airport property. So we had two issues or items that we voted on with respect to the firm. And if you guys all know all this, then tell me to stop and I won't go further, but I thought that it would be appropriate to update you on that. The first was a demand letter that was sent to the board by the firm's attorneys to require the board to pay for the construction costs of rerouting their track back onto their leased property and outside of the runway protection zone. That letter was voted down, so the board voted that we will not pay for that cost. And then the second issue that was brought up with respect to the firm was a motion that was brought to require the firm to complete what had been agreed upon in our corrective action plan with the FAA when the FAA had identified the runway protection zone intrusion. And so the vote by the board was to require that by 25 June, which was the original date that was established in the corrective action plan with the FAA, who is not very happy that it hasn't happened in the 16 months since they identified the intrusion, that by 25 June, the firm must remove all of the impediments into the runway protection zone that are part of their track. That will include barriers, embankments, and return the grade of that property back to the original grade. And that would then satisfy the FAA that we've at least accomplished one of the things that they asked us to do in February 2024, which was to correct that safety hazard. And as threat to get that to accomplish it in the motion was that should they not accomplish that by 25 June, then we reserve the right to determine whether or not we want to continue their lease. So that was kind of the two motions that were brought to the board and approved. Since then, a couple of things have happened that you may be interested in. One of them, so the FAA required us that the day after our board meeting that we update them on the status of the board's actions, because they're, as I mentioned, seriously concerned that we're not doing what they've asked us to do quickly enough. And so they seem satisfied with our actions. However, a couple of days after that, actually last Monday, they notified us that they have decided to charge the firm fair market value going all the way back 6.5 years, which is their maximum authority to do by law. And so we forwarded that information to the firm just for their information, and we now have to determine how we want to go about imposing that fair market value charge on them all the way back to 6.5 years. That was not the board had nothing to do with that decision. That was directed by the FAA. Last night, we got notified by the firm that their legal counsel had submitted 2 things in Bradford County Court. One was a suit, essentially, I'm not a lawyer, so maybe Mr. Commando, if you see it, could explain it better, but essentially, I think there are 7 counts of issues that they had that they wanted the airport authority to take action on. I won't even get into the details of it, but there's a lot of inaccuracies in the count, and it'll all come up in the court now. Is going to be decided by the judge and potentially a jury. And then the other thing that they included in that legal action was a injunction, a request for immediate injunction of the board taking any action to reclaim the land that is outside the lease and in the runway protection zone. So it essentially ties our hands, if it were to be approved by the court, that we could not take the action to fix the runway protection zone intrusion that has already occurred. So, speaking with our attorney, Mr. Taylor, this morning for several hours, we're going to have to talk as a board as to what the next steps are, and make sure that we do it in accordance with the legal recommendations of our attorney to make sure that we are all above board with it. And so it's kind of escalated to a level that we were hoping would not go, but it is what it is, and we'll deal with it. We're in the process of determining, because we anticipate now significant legal fees will probably be incurred on the part of the airport as we work through the legal process. And so we're hoping that we might be able to get from our insurance the ability to pay for the legal fees that will be incurred. We're still in the process of examining the insurance fine print to determine whether or not that's something that insurance will cover or not. If not, then we'll have to find out other ways to continue to keep things moving. So that's kind of a quick update. I can go into more detail or answer any questions if you have any.
Questions?
How did it?
With the date of the 25th being 2 days later, are you all going to have a special meeting prior to the 25th?
We considered that. Our normally scheduled meeting is the 1st of July, which is just a couple days later. And we already have on the 30th a special meeting planned. It was going to be a budget meeting. So I feel like I'm kind of asking a lot to do 3 meetings in a week for all of our people if there's not really that big of a pressing issue to.
I guess with Mr. Taylor, his input on the recent thing was happening about 24 hours ago.
Right.
Didn't know if you wanted to do something prior to the 25th. But if that's up to y'all,
Right.
I was just curious.
No, we right now have no intention of meeting otherwise than what we had originally planned, which is our 30th budget meeting and then the 1st of July standard monthly meeting.
Thank you.
Wish I had better news to report, but we'll
You
move
did a
on.
great job.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for your leadership.
Madam Mayor, the letter that General Eifert referenced was sent to us. It was a demand preservation letter that was sent to our address. I think by electronic copy of email was sent to each of you, but it was sent to the city of Stark. So I had just during our CRA meeting, I replied to that email to let the attorney know that 2 things. 1, the city of Stark is not us, and then 2, to let them know that the Keystone Heights Airport is actually an independent special district. They have their own supervisory control, their own board, maintaining their records. So I'll continue to deal with that after I go from General Counsel.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Minister?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Joe Wiggins, who you're all familiar with, is with us tonight at our mutually agreed upon request. And Mr. Wiggins, he would come up. He has two properties we've discussed, and knows that the city's looking for properties. So,
Jim?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. Joe Wiggins, 91 Branston Road, Suite 17, Green Coast Springs, Florida. So been a part of Clay County for 50 years, part of Keystone for going on 20, to the Lake House on Geneva. Been your special magistrate for code enforcement for about 8 years. So I have some ties to the community. I think Keystone is going to go through a pretty amazing transition over the next few years with the Black Creek water going on. We acquired the Sunrise Estates property from Jed a year and a half ago, and we're now kicking that off. We're ready to move forward on that. And then we also have the other 50 acres that, if I can point, it's right here, right? We have a couple other pieces, but there's two entrances, one off of Lanyard and one off of Fox Run. And so I've been hearing that expansion of City Hall, adding a museum, that kind of stuff. And before we started really kicking things off, we wanted to just offer, if the city has an interest in either one of those, we'd be willing to sit down and talk to you, right? We're not the big bad developer just trying to come in here and just, throw up houses and leave. We're a part of this community. The thing is, this property is not going to be around for a long time. Even if we decide not to do anything with it, we're getting calls from large developers. They're looking in the area, and they like, these large tracts of land. So I just wanted to offer it to you. I'm here for any discussion or questions. But if you're going to do something, you probably should do it, soon.
We appreciate you doing that, and it is right in the center of the CRA area, based on the map.
Mm-hmm.
And you said there's two entries, Fox Run?
Yeah, Fox Run, which runs off of Commercial, and then there's that little parcel right there next to the new Zaxby's, just south of the Direct Legion.
Fox runs that road between Brooklyn Boys now.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Great. Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, exactly. No, I think this is great, especially for the Fox Run property, especially if we were to try to do a government complex. We need to open the door with the county sheriff's office, the Department of Motor Vehicles, tax collector's office, library. I'd love to, I was thinking get rid of, that sounds negative, but here in the theme park, that library not be there and expand the park here downtown, and the library be over there. But I very much appreciate you all doing your work.
Thank you so much.
What I'd like to see is a library, because we need more room in City Hall. And the county could build another library somewhere bigger and our need that actually be used for that.
It's an option too.
So, Madam Mayor, just so I'm really clear here, would you like me, Mr. Biggs, city planner, to sit down with Mr. Williams, talk about some property acquisition, acres, what that would look like? And are you guys, at least by consensus, wanting to do this multi-governmental, I forget what Dan just called it.
We'll do, yeah.
I've been talking about the same thing.
A centralized
Government
facility
complex, yes, no, sorry.
that incorporates all the areas of need. Yeah, I mean, I think, and just like Todd said earlier about, what's available and what's not available, and we have very limited pieces of land to do anything really, of any size. And so I don't think it hurts to look into what that might look like and then propose an idea of what we can make that work, how we can make that work, based on, looking at a couple of years from now to whatever. I know doing a building like this, I think at one time, I remember Lynn put out a quote, RFP, for a multi-complex facility here, like to take this, either make it a two-story or to expand the entire property to be city hall, library, police, you name it, all the way, a two-story building. And I would think we had one single person respond to it. It was RFQ or something to that effect. I remember it going out, it was like in 2022, early 2023 maybe. But I think that we're moving toward that kind of setting, I think, as things continue to evolve.
Yes, ma'am.
So it wouldn't hurt to have conversation and uncover some ideas on the land and what it can offer to us potentially.
So be thinking, all of you, I'm requesting humbly here, when we move into development of our legislative priorities, which we need to get squared away by September, October, when the legislature goes back into committee week, over the next 3 years, we'll have higher than normal presence in Tallahassee. We're gonna have to start prioritizing. We cannot do, and ask the state to do, as they're trying to cut mineral projects, everything that we talk about. So be thinking, in multi-governmental things, bigger city hall, museum, for it. Where are we? I think we're just about a number of like $425 a square foot for governmental facilities. So we will be writing grants, we'll provide local match out of the city accounts, and then we'll be asking the state to help pick up the rest of it, but we have to go up there with a fairly tight shop group on what we're asking and show we have skin in the game on what we've done to prepare.
It's fair, for sure.
And, if you want to do one-stop shopping or a multi-government complex, I would say you probably want to get some buy-in from your constitutional officers before you start planning something, and then down the road, you wouldn't want them to say that they can't staff it, or they're not going to have anyone here, or building space that's not going to be used.
Right.
Yes, and we've had some additional conversation with the county manager and our county, and organic of their county staff had a realtor. So that discussion's been started. I've not yet asked for a meeting with us and all of the constitutionals, because if you guys say, hey, put that in your top 3, you want a multi-governmental complex, then I'll start pushing a little harder on that.
I have not officially heard, but our library, the way I understand it, is recognized as high on the list to be renovated. Because the rest of the libraries in the county are in much better condition. I mean, hands above anything we have. And so, this may be a good time to engage with at least that agency, because it is recognized that we need a facelift, we need something new. Okay?
Good, thanks. All right, next is our consent agenda.
Mayor, I need to ask if we can pull item number 9, which is the food truck ordinance, from the consent agenda, because it's first reading, it still requires opening a public hearing for public comment.
Okay.
So we would include that under the action items. I would suggest either before or after the museum update.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Do you all have any questions with the consent agenda items?
I do have one regarding the Kustler wedding, which I first interpreted that our councilman was getting married.
Well, he will be.
I will be.
Not for this application.
I didn't see a date for the event anywhere on the application.
Yeah.
Okay, I have, it's the 10th and 11th of October.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see the date, but October 11th, 10th and 11th, okay.
Well, so they can decorate.
Yeah, gotcha.
And And actually, we should pull that from the consent agenda also, because Councilman Kessler has, obviously would have a voting conflict on it, so it would be appropriate for you as council to vote on that separate, without his vote.
So the motion should probably sound something like move approval of the consent agenda minus items 9 and 11. Take no other action.
Okay. Can we get a motion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda except for items 9 and 11 as proposed. We don't have our monthly financials here.
We're not in
Is
a
this
monthly.
special meeting?
Oh, that's right, that's right.
We came in to do 2 or 3 things, and if we're not gonna try to do July, we're doing 7 or 8.
I thought we were coming in with one thing.
I did too. I thought it was just gonna be 1 or 2 items, but yeah.
We're busy.
All right, can we get a second?
Oh, you can.
We pulled the
This part of
lines.
the consent
We pulled-
agenda
we pulled-
doesn't have your issue on. So you can,
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
now you should separately handle the, voting request.
Gotcha.
I'll turn off the microphone.
Okay. So the food truck and the wedding onto this, action items, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the next item is the Kessler wedding alcohol request. Can we get a motion to approve?
I move we approve the event for October 10th, 11th, 2025.
Any comments?
We need a second?
Yes.
Yes.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right,
Don't drink too much.
next is,
It's just for wine.
next is the, first reading for the food truck ordinance.
I'll move that we read by title only the new food truck ordinance.
Second.
So we've got an ordinance number for the second and final reading, but an ordinance of the city of Keystone Heights, Florida, amending chapter 11, business regulations, article 6, hotels and restaurants, specifically section 11-52, mobile food vending, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. At this time, Madam Mayor, we'll open the public hearing in case anyone has any comments from the public.
Do y'all have any comments from the public? No?
And just by way of explanation, this, Ms. Bell and Ms. Bell spent a tremendous amount of work. This really incorporates a lot of your, actually all of your comments that we could pick up from the workshop type discussion. It also includes some incorporated ideas from that Green Cove Springs ordinance, which is what you wanted to start from. As we went through, we realized that we have some better language in our ordinance, so we kept the better language on those things, and that's what's presented before you today, and will be for final in August.
Yeah, the only question I had was on page 7, item 12, where it said requested 4 weeks prior to the date of operation to submit a request. Is there a reason it's 4 weeks? I mean, is there a reason why it takes 4 weeks for them to get an approval or to submit the process?
So the ask is that they submit it 4 weeks in advance, and that's so that if staff is jammed up doing other things, that people don't have an unrealistic expectation. I think in reality, I think the approval process is gonna happen faster than that. It's just understanding that if somebody comes in with a request a week or 2 weeks out, that City Hall staff can't just drop everything to deal with your application or your request.
Okay. Yeah, the goal was to make it more business friendly, small business friendly, and an easier process for everyone involved, so that we can get folks to be very interested in coming here and bringing the food trucks. Okay? Can I get a motion?
There's actually no vote on the first reading.
So, because it was under consent, you just want to give some just.
Not that it was under consent, it's just even on first reading of an ordinance,
Okay.
you don't actually need to take a vote. The only time that's not true is when you're dealing with budget. But for this, your final adoption at the August meeting, August 4th meeting, will take care of that.
Okay, gotcha. Perfect. All right, so next is museum update. Dan? And,
So I'm going to apologize up front. This might take me a while. First thing is, my perception is that we are in a small crisis. If we don't act tonight, we will probably lose the museum, and we have received a resignation letter from our Heritage Commission leader, Christine Arnold, and we will lose her also. I feel partially to blame for this. I did not act at our last meeting aggressively enough, and because of that, there was a perception which made its way into the local newspapers that we were tabling the museum, and that we were not taking any actions, and that we were pushing them off, so to speak. That perception, I take the blame partially for myself, and I hope to correct that tonight. So now let me start with the story. 1949, the Department of Defense is offloading airfields all across the country because World War II was done. Our airfield right outside of town here is offered to the city of Stark. The city of Stark thinks about it and says thank you, but no thank you, we're not interested. The Department of Defense turns to the city of Keystone Heights, says, would you like the airport? And I praise our foresightful forefathers for saying yes, we would like that airport. And it has been a gem of this community since. Tonight I submit to you that we are at the same kind of decision crossroad. And I want to ask you, 50 years from now, will our residents be saying, you know that nice museum that Stark has? That could have been ours. Or will the residents of Keystone Heights be saying, you know that nice museum that Keystone Heights had? They decided to take a chance in 2025 to make it happen. And my audience really is the four of us up here tonight. And so what I want to do is I want to make a series of motions to find out where we stand. And I want to hopefully create a correct, what I believe is a correct position that we want the museum. And then we will not push it off. So let me start with my first motion. And that is, I move that the council supports a Keystone Heights Museum and wants the Museum of Southern History to be part of that effort.
Councilman, I think I understand where you're trying to get to. You're in a public meeting, you can just ask them. I mean, you can ask who supports it and who doesn't.
Okay, well, I felt like, because I backed off of my motion at the last meeting, that sent a bad message.
But if there's a motion and if there's not a second,
There's not a second, then there's a clear message.
well, you may not get all the answers you're looking for. It'd just be easier if you guys just talk.
Okay, well, okay, let me try this another way. I have written out 5 motions. And what they are is more and more commitment to the museum. So I thought this first one was the least amount of commitment, but it's a clear message that we want the museum. My second motion would be to approve what has already been talked about in the workshop, that we do a phased approach to the development of the museum. Meaning that we only work on part of it, we don't have to decide everything right now, that is a good idea. We don't have to have the specifics, just that it's a good idea. My third motion is that
I would ask my fellow council members to request that Ms. Arnold withdraw her letter of resignation. I think she is a wonderful asset to our community, and I really would like for her to continue. And I think that her and her co-chair, who's here tonight, would be outstanding co-workers with Dr. Heiser and the members of the board of directors at the museum. And we would lose a extremely capable community member if Ms. Arnold does actually depart. So that would be my third motion. My fourth motion is in an effort to show resolve and commitment to the museum, our partner, by drafting a museum business plan. I would ask that the commission, the Heritage Commission, along with representatives of the Museum of Southern History, team together, and anyone else who's interested, and put together a first draft business plan to be delivered 1 week before our next council meeting, so that people have a chance to review it before the council meets. And the final test, to see how far this might go, it would have been a motion to request that the city attorney prepare a lease agreement where the city agrees to lease part of Sunrise Park. And I'll share with you my terrible architectural drawing. And I have extras for the audience. Thank you. The proposal, and I've gone to look at the property, is that we use what I'll call the southeast part of the property, with approximately 70 feet of frontage on Nightingale Street, using the library ordinance for parking spaces for libraries in the city limits. The number of parking spaces is equal to 1 parking space per 300 square feet. And so that's how I roughly characterize the parking lot. Parking spaces by our ordinance must be 9 feet by 20 feet. I didn't know the exact dimensions or couldn't find it for the possible 10,000 square foot building. So I equated it to an 80 foot by 140 foot. I'm sure I'm wrong, but it's something around that. The general idea, my first impression, is that there'd be 3, I'll call them office-like areas at the front. It could be, A would be the gift shop / entrance. That's how people would access the museum inside. B would be an office area for people who work there. And C would be a research library area. Tables, books, for people to sit and do research work. The rest of it, all of it could be for display, or some of it, in fact, could be used for storage if you wanted to block that off. I'm just throwing out an idea, but I want to see how committed this community is. The downtown museum idea is great, but I view that as phase 2. We may need to acquire land, we may need to do other things, we may need to buy a building, I don't know. But I view this as phase 1, and the reason is that we are looking at $2.5 million or more that is being brought to our community.
talking about around $500,000 in cash and more than $2 million in artifacts. And so we are being given a gift right now. We're being offered a gift. I can't tell you how, okay, let me say it another way. One of my mentors when I was a young officer said to me, there are no great men or women. There are only great opportunities. Sad is the person who does not recognize the opportunity and is not able to take advantage of it. This is a great opportunity. And I would be very sad if we do not take advantage of it. So that was, the whole spiel. I thank you for letting me talk.
And Councilman, before the council comments, I didn't interpret your decisions at the last meeting to mean that nothing was happening. I thought direction was given to the city manager to look into some of the feasibility issues.
You need to read the 2 newspaper articles.
Well, I'm just speaking from being in the meeting. I mean, from being in the meeting, my understanding was you had directed the city manager to look into it further. And I think there's some background information knowing that Dr. Heiser has shopped this concept to other municipalities and counties. And I can't tell you why they decided to decline. So just like if you're purchasing any other type of real estate, you would go through a due diligence type process. My understanding is that's all that the council was directing Mr. Renzan to do.
Can I speak to that, please? Briefly, okay? Well, I was brought in that I had spoken to other people, shop that, you know who that might be.
Someone mentioned to me that it was Orange Park, and I don't know where else.
I had spoken to Orange Park, the town of Orange Park, and asked them if they had any property that they might have available, and they said unfortunately no. And that's all that they said.
I understand this is just part of the due diligence process, talking to the people on the administrative side to see why.
Exactly. But that was the only time, because that was the reason being. And so the other thing was that I was looking for property on my own to find places that would have. Green Cove Springs had property, but it was too much money. I was doing on my own due diligence, but Orange Park, the town of Orange Park, and everything around it, it's booming and everything. So no, it was not shopped around. It's-
Well, so maybe
May I
that's,
ask the question?
okay.
Madam Mayor?
Sure.
Dr. Heiser,
Yes.
have you received an offer for the city of Starkville? Would your board allow you to disclose that information?
When that article hit, I received a message, a phone message that asked, what would it take to come to Stark? I've also received 3 other offers since that article has hit from other places that I had not even considered at all. And I have not contacted anybody back. But I did leave here thinking it was over with. I did. Because there was nothing for me to think about. I was basically dismissed. And I did not think anything about it. And then the next day, I received an email from Tiffany Coleman that is requesting a background check on all the partners of my 501c3. I couldn't understand why. It was on behalf of Mr. Van Zandt. I have been involved with 501c3s for over 35 years. And never has anybody ever asked for background checks on any member of 501c3 because we are insured with D&O insurance, directors and officers insurance, plus others. When I finally was able to speak with Mr. Van Zandt, he told me that it was an employee we would be employees of the city, which we would never be employees of the city. And I explained that. And it was the fact that it was common to be done that way. But then, later speaking, it was that I would get keys to City Hall if he would figure it and everything. And I'm like, no, I don't want keys to City Hall. There's no reason to have keys to City Hall. I wouldn't want to be in here. I got keys to every office I've ever been, and I don't want to do this. And I've never had my integrity or any ethics, anything of that nature. And I'm here trying to give this city a museum. I'm not asking for anything from this city. I'm asking to be employed by this city. And to have somebody do that to people that have been patient and waited almost 2 years to place this museum, not as a Confederate museum, but as an Americana museum that would bring people from all over. Because we were not only ready to invest what I showed you in our bank accounts, but we have a grant that would allow us to have another, what I would say, almost $800,000.
This is new?
Yes, it is new. And I was gonna hopefully be able to tell you all last time, when everything went. But it was like no one wanted to know. No one wanted to listen. And so it was dismissed.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, sir?
See, the whole thing just seems rushed to me. We can make, if it's just you, we got 1,600 people that we have to answer to.
Oh, yes, sir.
So I'm not gonna say spend the money or whatever, because it's gonna cost us something.
Well, no, sir, it would not.
I don't see.
All it would be late.
I'll be on record now, I don't see what we, okay. But
But-
that's what we gotta figure, we hold him accountable, that's our one guy we hold accountable.
I understand.
So I don't need you to come here on record and, or what, like, that's cool there,
Well,
but,
that's okay.
you know, put him down.
I'm not putting it down. I'm just telling you exactly.
I'll tell you what I
happened.
got, you know.
Well, I got to the
But-
fact that as far as.
I wanna make a statement, is what I wanna make. All right. Yes, I want Chris Oliver to come back, that would be great. The next thing, I'm not gonna, like the last meeting, what turned me off, you said stop everything and let's keep this going. Why can't it go through the regular, whatever the government does to bring it here, okay? That'd be fine, I probably would vote for it. But I'm not gonna stop him after like 3 meetings ago. We need to get stuff done, we need to get stuff done. Why isn't it getting done? I had like 4 projects already get done, there's one get done. I've been here a year and a half, so I'm not gonna stop him on that. That's mine, go on now.
Well, so, and I, Dr. Myers, I apologize if that is the way you took it. But just like Stevie said, it takes time. We can't just make a decision. You just came to us less than a month ago about this. Us, and I attended the workshop. I could not attend their meeting, but I have listened attend the meeting, but not the workshop, but I have looked at the information. I've also talked to our lawyer and our city manager independently about the situation, and it really comes down to 2 things. It's not that we don't want it. The thing is, and initially I thought it was to put our city museum in with your items in one building, is my understanding. But now what I'm understanding is our things would be in a separate location, separate area, and this, what you have, would be in a separate area, not necessarily under the same roof.
No,
Is
ma'am.
that correct?
No, ma'am.
So let me go on. So the thing, well, that's kind of what my understanding has been. So the thing is, there are 2 things before anything can happen. Is, number 1, our lawyer has to talk about the relationship. As he mentioned at the last meeting, it's private versus public. We are public, you are private. Private cannot take money for anything. The Heritage Commission Museum to be falls under the city of Keystone Heights, okay? That is their current status. I remember I was chair, we couldn't even raise money to do anything because we're not allowed to. So when you saying, I wanna give you this $400,000 or whatever that number is, by law, we cannot take that money, and even if we want it, for no matter what it is. Am I not correct?
It's a. what
Based
I-
on our current
Right.
status.
Normally, that's where you would kind of explore the concept of a public-private partnership.
Right.
And I would like to use the College of Missionary Aviation on the airport as an example. They can collect money. They are a nonprofit. They lease our property on the airport. This would be a similar
That's
situation.
exactly right.
So that comes to the next comment. Number one, could we do it because of the title, the way they're titled, Heritage Commission versus a 501c3? Second is where? Dan nicely laid out this creative idea. And if we were to lease you space for you to build your building out at Sunrise, I'm open to explore that. But me personally, I think our city museum, that the community cares about the immediate things that they shared at Chautauqua, they want it here in town. They want it easy to get to, easy to access. And I just feel like that particular location is not centralized enough for what they are gonna try to do with a gift shop and all that. I'm not saying that we don't like what you have. I think I've looked online at the stuff you have, it's impressive.
You don't know how.
Well, I don't know I don't know it all, and I know you have 6 buildings and you're paying all this money, but you can't expect for us to jump through these hoops in 30 days and give you a decision on something that's such a major decision. We don't even know if we could lease that space to you at Sunrise, based on the way, I don't know how we acquired that land, I know across the street here we can't do that. So I think it's a something that, like I said, Mr. Commando has to weigh in on. And then we, like, cause we lease space out of the airport, to aviators and then of course, non-aviation. But I know that that could be done, but it doesn't mean the Heritage Commission can be part of that unless they change the way they are titled compared to what they currently are. Is that correct?
Sure.
But what I'm proposing, and this is the last thing I said last time is if we could just, and here, I understand about this leasing the property and everything, was if we could just lease property and then be able to move forward.
I would love to do that if there's anywhere we can do that at, we just don't know what that might be.
Yeah, well, I understand that, and that's one of the situations, and I understand. And that was one of the things that you made clear, and last time, and you said, quite frankly, you didn't want anything at Sunrise Park.
Not
And I
for the
understand
city
that.
museum collection. Yours would be, if that's where we could put it, cause of the size of it, it's big. You know, and I had thought, what if we took our area over here in Magnolia that has that public works building, renovate it for our museum, and take that pole barn and renovate it to be a separate building for your items, but it wouldn't be big enough for what you want. And that's area that we currently have that could come to fruition if we could come to a decision on location. But then we could lease that little space to you, not as massively big as what you're talking about, and create parking right across the street. Now that to me is a possibility, but I think that, we just have to understand that, and clearly it's gonna, if we stay the way they are, identify the Heritage Commission separately under the city arm oversight. And unless they change that or become a 501c3, would be where you guys could come to partnership unless you said there's something different that we could do in that arrangement. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am, it
It's
does.
complicated.
And I understand exactly.
It's frustrating.
It is, and, it's one of those situations where, I do understand, and where you're all coming from. I understand different things, but I understand too that what we were planning to do was we knew you couldn't turn on a dime. It was to know if the city would make the commitment of being able to work with us to know that if there was a chance of property there, that there would be a possibility of a lease. Because if we got a building, we would have 90 days before we would even have it coming in.
Right.
We were the ones that were spending the money. We were the ones that would have everything that would have to be done. All we were asking was a lease on some property.
We just gotta identify That might be-
And that was the deal. We would have all of the insurance, we would have everything. And that's is what it came down to.
So, Dr. Heiser, first off, thank you for basically being put through hell through this process. I think that's a fair assumption from my perspective.
I'm embarrassed.
Well, let me explain one thing. Let me say one thing. Is that let me say one thing. Is that I have heard that I have refused a background check. I have never refused a background check.
So, Dr. Heiser, I want to thank you for that, and I think it was fascinating to read the Chicago Tribune about the flag that you donated. Well, it was ultimately an auction to Guernsey, that was on Lincoln's casket after his assassination. That was really fascinating. My concern is actually a little something different than that of the mayor and vice mayor. My concern now is that the acrimony was such that I think we might have destroyed any good chance to work together in good faith at this point. Just the fact that we've had a resignation of a chair. I don't have a commitment this time that she'd come back if we asked her to. But, you know, I think if there is a way forward, my personal belief, if I was you, I'd go to Stark and do business there. If they would have you, that's what you want to do since they offered it. But, I mean, at the same time, there's nothing stopping us from working out if the attorney says it works. And there is a commitment that the city can work with you and us not have all this going on in public or private. You know, some kind of lease arrangement. I think that was the original request. Let you set up a building, you run your own exhibits, your own museum, do everything you want to do. And that's what I would vote for. All this other can be worked out in good time and due course when the city has time if they want it. But in you know, if not, then I think we might be at an impasse with it. And I'll certainly visit your museum. I look forward to talking with you about projects. I think with the growth that we have here, I think perhaps the title Southern Museum is probably the wrong title for it.
It would not
because
be the
it's
name that. It would
what
not
you're
be-
gonna have to encapsulate is a whole lot of Northeast Florida history, the Coastal Empire history, and all of that. And, you know, in a few years, we won't have children here, they'll not have fried okra anymore. So, you know, that's where I'm at. I stand ready to support any motion that Dan seeks to put forward, or anything he seeks to do on this, but I think that the most painless option, if there is one tonight from the council, is just to, if the city manager believes that that there is a path forward, and the city attorney do, to work out some kind of just generic lease arrangement, possibly down the road to be decided on, if you want to continue with that, if you think, but if not, then I think we have to say for today, you know, that this is not a today situation. There is a tremendous amount, and Dr. Heiser, I have shared this with you myself directly. My feelings here, these are not personal feelings. I was, like Dan, I was disturbed the way last month's meeting transpired with that situation, because, you know, I don't like these kind of things unnecessarily. But that's where I'm at. And I do think there's a need for your museum. I think you have great inventory. I think that you would be willing to, basically, you're doing your own investment. I saw that we had in our plan of $550,000. You're basically saying you'll invest your money, your inventory in our community, and that people will have access to it here, whether they come for a tour or whatever. So I don't know how hands-off we can be if we can do that. If that could be something we could say we would direct down the road. I mean, we have budget hearings that are gonna run through September. I didn't get what I wanted tonight out of the session, so I didn't like being out, but I'll just be upfront with you. But they are busy. They are very busy. Mr. Van Zandt, I can't speak for him, but my suspicion is he is overloaded right now with more than they can deal with. And so if there is a path forward, and the city attorney believes we can do something without obligating ourselves to too much, I would support a simple lease, some kind of simple lease of a spot, if we could find one that would work in accordance with our ordinances and so forth. But if you don't think that's right, and Mr. Van Zandt has an issue with it, then I think we're at an impasse for today. And I'll come visit the museum and whatever I can, wherever you put it, and I hope you invite me down there. If you borrow it from the place, I'm gonna be real upset.
No, but I do have my board has been on the sidelines. They've been voting. Dr. Ryder, as president, could you give me your vote? No, it's unanimous. I'm sorry. The board has voted that we will not entertain a motion or.
We lost it.
Thank you very much.
50 years from now,
Sorry,
we're
let's
state.
Thank you.
We lost it. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the board, that's their vote. Thank you guys for trying.
Thank you, appreciate it. We wish you guys the best.
Me too.
So, next we have for discussion only, and his contract just with the comprehensive redevelopment plan. Jamie, did you, I know we just got our CRA meeting, but I know it's on the agenda.
So are you looking, I'm sorry, are you looking for approval from that tonight or at the August meeting?
Well, the board recommended, I think the motion that, I think Jamie drafted it, that, Mr. Vice Mayor Tucker read was for the Keystone Heights City Council to act on the board's recommendation, the CRA board that you confirmed an hour ago, the two, whatever it was. So do we need to take action on this?
We have to set the process in order, don't we, for August to have a vote? Was that not my
That was
understanding?
it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this just got maybe carried forward from the.
I think it was just accidentally on both agendas.
Okay.
So there will be times where there's certain actions of the CRA
Mhm.
that you'll see the same day in the council meeting. But I don't believe this was one of those times.
I thought it was, and directed Ms. Harris to put it on there.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, only based on what the motion was, that
Okay.
it referenced at all.
Okay. So we don't need to do that then, we can go on to council comments? Correct? Okay. Council comments, you guys got any comments for the week? Right?
Yeah, thanks to the staff for the work of the CRA. We obviously just spent a lot of time on it. We appreciate your work with that, appreciate your work with the Keystone Heights Airport Authority. You guys have a great team there at the airport. They're doing great work. They're, I can't say anything about it, but doing great work, and we appreciate Mr. Van Zandt's work with that. And appreciate your entertaining of the museum and your work there. And so with that, I'm looking forward to the 4th of July. 250 years? 249?
49.
I thought it was 250. Is it 250?
The Army is 250 years old because we kicked off a war that gets the country to 249.
I thought it was 249 until July 4th, then it'll be year 250. That's it. That's in my almanac. It says it's the 229th year of our independence until July.
Well, I'm a little older, but when I was losing teeth in 1976, the Tooth Fairy would give me bicentennial quarters in 76, so I know that 2026 will be the 250.
There you go.
That's a good way to go.
And I'll forget that tonight tomorrow.
And my history teachers all did a great job, I'm sure, or they tried hard to.
Mr. Dan?
Thursday night, I attended the Florida League of Cities dinner in Orange Park. The board had a meeting at 5 o'clock, and I was approved to be the newest member of the board. So Keystone Heights is on the Northeast Florida League of Cities board. It's just as a heads up, not really a big deal, but the board voted to increase the annual dues. And as a city less than 5,000 people, our dues for annual will go from $75 to $125. It's a bargain.
Yeah.
It's a bargain.
Especially with all the kids.
And the only other thing I wanted to say is thank you, Wendy, for getting us all set up for the August convention down in Orlando. And There's actually a board event that goes on down there that I need to attend on the very first day, something like 3:30 on the 14th. So I'm looking forward to that trip in August.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys signing up to go. It's great.
That's it.
That's it. For me, I'll also be at the League of Cities, but I'll be doing the Florida League of Mayors meetings. I'll be there slightly before you all get there and leave, I think on Wednesday or Thursday morning to come back. I want to say huge thanks to our staff, Jamie, Bo, everyone involved in working on the CRA plan with this fleet. Also, the thing is, it's taken a lot of work. How many items was on the comp plan? 500 and something or whatever. And then we identified the 12 priorities, and then you funneled it down for focus. And one of the things I think that is echoed throughout the years here is we start on something and we don't finish it. And the goal now is we are definitely going to get some stuff finished. I can already see some things that we've done that are just huge. This mural thing is huge. And so that's just steps in the right direction, I think, for the community on so many levels. This whole thing about the museum, I'm very sad to hear the situation as it's become. It's unfortunate that she had such a timeline that she was trying to fight, that she needed, that we just could not accommodate. It's not that we don't want any of this. I wanted it too, but I wanted it under the right situation. And it really came down to, can we do this? And where are we going to put something as big as what she talked about? And, we're still going to have a museum for our Heritage Commission to house their items, to show them to the public one way or the other. It is in the comp plan, it's in the strategic plan, it's in the CRA detail. Definitely going to happen. And we will figure it out. There's no doubt in my mind it will get figured out. I'm really, really sad about Christine deciding to step down. It's a lot of times when you don't participate in these roles, and even as a general can say to it, being a leader in the role he's in currently, even me sitting here, all of us, the commitment that we make on any of these groups, planning and zoning, all of them, it takes a lot of time. And, some folks still work and all these other things, and they have other interests. She is definitely a huge asset to our community. I'm hoping that maybe she'll be entertained to the idea of us designating her as our historian for the city of Keystone Heights. Because I know that's her thing. That's what she really loves, is getting into all that deep detail. And I'm sure the Heritage Commission will find the right person to come forward and apply, and hopefully we'll get some folks interested in joining. So I'll look forward to hearing what that looks like. I attended the speakeasy party with the Women's Club on Saturday night. I think Speedy was there with Jill, and what do we have? Deidre was there. We had about almost 70 people there or so. It was 2 people. Was it? Yeah, and Jen too. Yeah, we were there. Great event, a lot of fun. It's just great to see community at all levels, all ages, even her 93-year-old, is it Winnie that was there? What's her name? Yeah, the gal that's one of the members. She was there too that night. Anyway, it's just fun to see the community come together and continue the celebration of the centennial activities. So appreciate the Women's Club for hosting that event and their sponsors. But that's it for me. Mr. Anthony?
Yes, ma'am, I won't keep us long. In the budget that was signed last Monday night by the Florida legislature, they passed 2 items that directly affect Keystone in a great way. They have in their budget $250,000 for Lake restoration. That's something, if you remember back when we did our legislative priorities, we kind of knitted up with the Craig County Commission, and that was one that they carried, but we all advocated for, as well as $744,000 for an entrance road into the Keystone Heights Airport. That was on our city's legislative priorities. Bradford County was advocating for it. They were advocating for it. Representative Rankin, who represents all of Bradford and none of the Clay now since they redistricted the lines, but Representative Saps and Bradley, everybody was pulling for us there, and your city airport property is a direct beneficiary of that. So for a little city with a $1.9 million recurring budget year that we're in, we received almost $1 million in extra funding to do things that you guys had agreed we wanted to do. So I think that is a compliment to our representatives and senators and everybody on this team. Ms. Harris and Ms. Bell went to Tallahassee with us, one of the trips. Our volunteer event logistics coordinator, Chief Quinn from the City of Jacksonville Fire Department, went with me on one occasion. Because sometimes you have to divide and conquer, you get a 10-minute appointment with two people that ask for both at the exact same time. So that was a lot of work, and the governor has 7 more days to sign the budget into law or line item veto everything. So we're hoping we will not veto RT projects. Everybody wants to save money, nobody wants their stuff to go waste. There you go. Other than that, Ms. Harris was on the ball with the Florida League of Cities registration, and Councilman Welsh, Knight, and Love and Dusky are all registered and have hotel rooms for that conference. So that's all I got, man. That's your question.
Thank you. Rich?
All right, so I'm normally going to say, but tonight, I think I just want to make sure we start off by congratulating our vice mayor on his occasion.
Yes.
You know, I am sad to see that the potential for the museum is no longer, but as a city council, when you're elected, you have a fiduciary responsibility to your citizens. So the concept that it took a little due diligence to work that out, I'm sorry that turned into be more of a problem than it probably should have been. I'm also sad to hear about Christine. You know, sitting in this room, Deirdre, I think you're the only person that's still here when I started 12 years ago. And, you know, watching the formation.
Still open for a museum.
But, you know, watching the formation of the Heritage Council with Ladonna and Steve Hart, and then Madam Mayor, as you kind of took the reins from that, and Christine after you, if there's ever a place that I've ever been that has an active Heritage Commission or Heritage Council, this is it. I mean, I go many of the places where, you know, they meet once a year and they hand out 3 or 4 plaques, and that's kind of, they call it job done. So to do the Chicago and to do the Mother's Day tours, to do the tours for the high schools, as well as working towards the museum is really a phenomenal feat considering kind of how small we are. So, you know, Sarno's been a great part of that, and I'll miss seeing her kind of lead that aspect of our city. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, appreciate it. Anything else? All right, thank you for a good meeting, appreciate it. Meeting is adjourned.